this is Erin with lovemusiclearning.com. Today I wanted to talk to you about practice tips. Now I know that there are a lot of piano practice tip videos out there that are excellent, and it's great for intermediate or advanced students, but there's not a lot of information for beginners. And I kind of feel like beginners get the short straw on that because they need to develop good practice habits. So this is for you if you are a beginner. And by beginner, I mean probably the first 6 months of your piano journey. And you might be playing in a method book, you might have some very simple melodies, maybe even playing eighth notes and some hands together. So this is for you. The first practice tip is counting out loud and writing in the counts. So this is where you look at your time signature and then you look at the shortest note value that you have. That may be an eighth note. You might only have 1 or 2 eighth notes in the entire piece, or it could be a quarter note. If it's a quarter note, you just have your beats 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever your time signature is. And if you have eighth notes, then you would have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The ands, I usually just write in a little plus sign that's a little faster. But you do want to actually take a pencil and write it in, and you want to line it up to the note that it corresponds to. You know, there's always beat 1 that happens at the beginning of the measure, and it's always right there. And then next to that, 2, 3, 4. And you can usually see visually where those beats live. And you want to make sure that you line that up to where it lives. And then you can see, okay, this note happens on beat 1, this one happens on the and of 2. So that kind of helps you analyze what your rhythm is. So having it written in is very good visually. We want to count out loud and actually make sound so that we can use our ears to hear this is what the beat is and this is the rhythm that I'm playing with that beat. You also want to be counting whatever that time signature is, every single measure. Some method books will even just say, okay, you count 1, 2, 3, 4 if you don't have any eighth notes, but you have eighth notes in the next measure, so then you count 1 and 2 and. The problem with that is students will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and. There was absolutely no difference in the counting. There was no difference in rhythm, so their eighth notes sound like quarter notes. So what we want to do is always have the ands in there. It keeps you honest. And then lastly, we want to actually physically say it out loud. Some people are like, oh, I can count in my head, it's fine. But they always lose track of where the beat is. They lose track of what beat they're on. When you do it in your head, it's just not enough information. So by physically counting, and you don't have to be loud, you can whisper if you want to, but by physically counting and physically playing the notes, you actually learn that physical movement as well. So very important to do that. The second tip is slow practice. Now we all have kind of a standard beat that we think in, and that's 116 beats per minute. So when I have students, they come and they play, and you can tell that maybe they're going a little too fast. They stumble a lot, or they have a lot of pauses, and that happens as a result of playing too fast. And so I tell them, okay, try it again slower, and then they play it again, still the same speed. It's like we get stuck in that speed. And so part of learning to practice well is developing the skill of slow practice. Now you can use the metronome to help with this, but I don't encourage you to play with the metronome a lot because you end up with metronomic playing, which isn't very musical. So using the metronome can help us by first, let's determine what is the speed that you are playing it at. And that's probably going to be around 116 beats per minute there. And then just turn it down to like, I don't know, 72 or something like that. A lot slower. Listen to the metronome at that speed, and then try to play at that speed. You can try using the metronome with that. It can be very difficult at first. So it might be easier just to kind of think of how it should sound at that beat and then try playing it with the metronome turned off, but just keeping the reins on that tempo. Number 3 is what I call talking it through. Now this is where it's before you've played, you already have your counts written in, but you're going through and just speaking what is happening. And you don't have to do this out loud. You can actually do this in your head. But let's just say we start on G, treble G, with finger 5. All right, and that's a half note. So you're going to hold that for 2 beats. And then it skips down to an E. That's finger 3. And then it's going to go to the left hand, and the left hand is going to play middle C with finger 1. And by doing this, you anticipate any of the difficult places, and you actually figure it out before you actually play a note. Number 4 is similarities and differences. With this, our brain is kind of geared towards finding what's different. So we want to take advantage of that, of course, and identify, okay, this is different, but also really to understand what's the same. So by first identifying, kind of mapping out, okay, we've got these 2 measures here, then it goes and does something else for 2 measures, and then we repeat those first 2 measures again. By identifying the similarities and differences, you actually help your reading. Number 5 is working in layers. Now this is something that you can do as an intermediate or advanced student as well, but it's the idea of stripping everything down to its most simplest elements first, and then reincorporating those other elements as it gets easier. So by elements, I'm talking about, first of all, your notes and your rhythms, okay? If you're having trouble with playing something, maybe you just need to play the notes and not worry about whatever the rhythm is. Just figure out what the pitches are first. And maybe you just work in like small sections to do this. Then after, okay, now I've got what those notes are, then go back and then figure out what the rhythm is. And you may want to just play the rhythm, maybe tapping left and right hand instead of the actual fingers, or you could tap the finger numbers, doing that separately and then incorporating them together. And you would do this all in one practice session. Then another element, articulations. By that I'm talking about staccato, legato, accents, 2-note slurs, things like that. You can purposely not do those to get the nuts and bolts out of the way, those notes and rhythms. And then when you have those, you can go back and add those articulations. Same with dynamics. Add them in, but be aware that as you add them, it's going to add a layer of complexity. So you can strip them out temporarily to work out whatever issues you're having, and then you can incorporate them back in.